All right,
All right,
Jules.
Uncle Brad.
How you doing? Here we are.
I'm good. I am excited to have another booze forward cocktail.
I like you like booze forward.
Booze
Booze
forward.
forward.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about this one. I think Martini era, I think, is always going to be a thing. I think as of recently, it's just kind of become more and more popular, whether it's TikTok, whether it's the dirty martinis, things like that. I'm seeing a lot of martinis out there. So covering the Vesper is fantastic. I think everybody should know how to make this cocktail. So I'm excited to cover that today.
Yeah, me too. I am also excited to cover that. And Jules, we have got a history section to get through where I go into the backstory on the Vesper, which
Very
could be
interesting.
surprising depending upon how much you know about certain things that are going
Is
on
it
in the world.
shaken or stirred?
Especially, it's shaken, not stirred. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So we'll go into the history, and then if you haven't yet, please go out and rate our podcast. Go to Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, and mark some stars down. Hopefully they're 5, and maybe leave us a comment. I don't think anybody but Apple allows you to leave comments, but if you would, that'd be super awesome, because I love to read those comments too. They brighten my day. I know they brighten yours.
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is our labor of love. So the more reviews and comments we get actually help us in the long run. We really are here for you. We mean that. So yeah, anything you can do to help is fantastic. But I think we should get on and make our cocktail. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right.
Moving on. All right. Cool. Who's thirsty?
Oh man, I am. And I really want you to make this cocktail, because I have to say, this isn't one of the martinis I order all the time. So I'm excited for you to make this for us, Brad.
Yeah, it's out there. As far as, some people know about it, some people don't. I think everybody's kind of heard about it at some point. But a super elegant cocktail. One that people often make with Lillet Blanc. And I'm not, because Lillet Blanc is, so when this recipe came out, they used Quina Lillet, which is no longer made. And so many times when recipes called for Quina Lillet, just through kind of sheer laziness, right? People would be like, oh, well, then it must be Lillet Blanc, because Lillet is a brand. It's like saying,
Right.
Okay, well, so is Budweiser, and Bud Light's not the same thing. So anyways, or maybe that's not a great example. So what we're going to do is we are going to use Cochi Americano in place of Quina Lillet, because it has that quinine back to it that Quina Lillet does. And quite frankly, I've had it a number of different ways, including the way the New York Times makes it. And everybody loves that way, and that's made with Lillet Blanc. I put Cochi Americano in and subbed that. It was delicious. So that's what we're doing. All right. So I've got my bar tools here. I've got my shaker. I've got my strainer. And then I've got my fine mesh strainer as well.
And Brad, you have your shaker. So are you shaking it because that's the James Bond way? Or...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, because you could stir this too, right?
You absolutely could stir this. And there's probably some people out there who are like, oh my God, you're supposed to stir martinis, not shake them. You only shake stuff with citrus. Right.
You know what? Say that to James, okay?
Yeah, dare ya. So it totally is like, martinis are kind of one of those things that just gets away with both. Or again, Neil Murray, he shook the Cosmo. And that's okay in my book. It has citrus in it, so you're supposed to shake it, right? So, all right, maybe that's a bad example. You know what we should do? Let's make the drink. Enough jibba jabbing. So
we need a cocktail.
I've got my Plymouth gin, which is one of my favorite gins. I have got my Gruben vodka, which is a Polish potato vodka. Okay. And I've got my Cochi Americano. Okay, just 3 simple ingredients. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 ounce of gin, put that in our shaker, put this to the side. Boom, boom. 1 ounce of vodka and move that out of the way.
How many ounces of gin did you do, Brad? Sorry.
1 ounce of gin.
Oh, okay.
1 ounce of vodka, 1 ounce of Cochi Americano. Now, other recipes will kind of screw around with ratios and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Again, like this is the way that I feel like it tastes really good. So this is the way I go with it, right? And like I said, I was using the New York Times recipe before. I subbed out the Lillet Blanc for Cochi Americano. It still tastes delicious to me. This is the horse I'm riding. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah,
put
right
my
away.
shaker together. All right. I feel like that's sufficiently cold. Not quite 20 seconds, but good enough for this show.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
Good enough for me.
That's not true. You guys only deserve the best. I've also got a grapefruit peel. You're supposed to use a lemon peel. I didn't have a good lemon, so I used grapefruit, which is perfectly okay when it comes to gin drinks, in my humble opinion. I totally agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Give it a good long shake. Well, not that long. We'll only go about 20 seconds.
Shaken, not stirred.
Shaken, not stirred. All right. So, you know what I should do is add just a dash of saline, because I did find that does make the cocktail sing a little. All right, so I've got my equipment here. I'm going to get my Hawthorne strainer on top of my shaker. I'm going to move.
And the only reason why you're double straining is because you shook it so the ice bits. Otherwise, if you were mixing this, you wouldn't need to double.
Yeah, right. So I still got dilution. I still got it cold. It probably rapidly cooled a little bit quicker than it would if you stirred it. And I'm just going to make sure it doesn't continue to dilute. So I want to take out those little ice bits with my fine mesh strainer. Take my grapefruit twist, which also should be a lemon twist, but grapefruit works great. Down the stem, just like Caitlin Stewart. All right, here we go. Ready?
Give it a little taste.
I mean, that's
so
just
good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the way you should drink that. And here's what's going on. It's really silky. It's smooth, but it has that slight bitter backside to it, but it's sweet and bitter. So it's not like an overwhelming bitter. It's just a gentle bitter. So this is just such an elegant cocktail. A lot of flavors in there. I highly, highly recommend. Highly recommend. This is a classy one.
Yeah, I think this is fun. I mean, I think martinis will always have a moment. I think that right now they're a little bit more popular than, say a couple of years ago. But this is a fun little classic twist, because this is a classic recipe, right? But it still drifts away from your dry or dirty or things like that. So this is a fun one to try if you're in your martini moment, to give this one a shot. Speaking of, giving it a twist, you know what? I'm going to be honest, Brad. I had a tough time riffing off this one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I asked around. I was at a restaurant earlier, and I'm like, what would you guys do to, riff on this cocktail? One of the answers was, keep it the same with the gin and the vodka and play with the Lillet, whether that's infusing it or maybe you play with a different, style of, that liqueur addition, play with that flavor. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then I asked somebody else and he said, well, because I was thinking about maybe doing something with cognac. I'm like, well, what about gin and cognac with the Lillet? And one of them said, well, what if you, instead of cognac, you did Calvados? And I was like, well, that would be interesting.
Ooh,
so these are two really good ideas. I didn't have Calvados. So it's like, okay, what can I do that, I can make here with all the ingredients I have? And what I kind of came up with, I saw a couple of, I'm going to do it with rum. So essentially I'm making like a rum martini.
Okay. All right. Listening.
Yeah. Right. So the other thing I'm doing too, because I like Lillet Blanc. I think it's nice.
Sure.
But I happen to have the Lillet Rouge. And because I'm using rum, this kind of skews a little bit more vanilla-y, a little bit more spice notes, I feel like, than the Blanc.
Okay.
Give it a little smell. Yeah. So I'm going to make like a rum Vesper using the Lillet Rouge. So let's make this together. We're not doing the equal parts that Brad did, though I think you could. Mine's going to be a little bit different. So let me add ice to my mixing glass. Okay. And for everybody listening right now, off to the side, I have my glass with water and ice to chill my glass.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we haven't been calling out the chilling the glasses lately. We gotta make sure people know that you gotta do that.
Game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of white rum.
I love that.
I love that sound. Okay, so 1.5 ounces. And then we're going to do 1 ounce of darker rum. And I just recently got this 10-to-1 Caribbean rum. Oh my God, it's so good. And I just also feel like when you're mixing rums, you really, in my opinion, you can't go wrong. I just love the flavor of rum so much.
Yeah, totally.
So 1 ounce. And then, see, from what I've been seeing, 1/2 ounce, I would argue you could probably do 3/4 ounce Lillet Rouge, but I like that 1/2 ounce. I think it gives it a nice flavor. And then you would also add in about 2 drops of saline solution, or if you don't have saline solution, add in a pinch of salt. But we're going to stir this about 20 seconds or so. Make sure you drop some ice.
Yeah, you know what's too bad is that we don't have like a clear ice maker just at the ready.
I know.
You know, you just
I wish
put those big chunks right in there.
Yeah. It'd be so nice if you just had a little machine to do it yourself.
Yeah, just make your big chunks of ice to use at your leisure.
Oh, Brad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're happy with what we've done here? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
All right.
Little baby
So I have
Frankenstein
my-
there?
Yeah. I have my
Looking real
chilled
cute.
coop. Looking real cute.
That looks like a Nick and Nora. That's a coop?
It is. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's a Nick and Nora.
All right, I mean, I don't mean to call you out, but...
No, but what was I thinking?
Oh, look at that. In the sunlight, too. That is just...
Come on.
Wow.
I mean,
Jules.
think about it, right? Like Vesper
You're like
Martini,
making
you
artwork
got...
over here.
It's really just what you want it to be. It doesn't need to be complicated.
Yeah.
But I would say, the Lillet and playing with that would be a good way to riff it too. So I might still play with this, but I would say an orange or a grapefruit, I feel like plays with that,
like it.
rum flavor. Brad, I wish I had your grapefruit, but I have an orange. So just over the sides, right around, orange peel around, up, down the stem of the glass. You put it in there. And there you have a little tiki Vesper.
That is pretty. Hey, wait. Cheers. Cheers. I know I've been drinking mine, but...
Cheers.
Bink. All right, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We happy? We happy?
And I will say, I earlier when I was tasting...
But what for? Like, tell me what you taste.
What? Well, I tasted it earlier on the spoon, but I will relive it again. Let me just, hold on.
Yep. Get another one in there. Yep. Down the hatch. Come on.
Think about rum and how there's so many delicious sugarcane flavor. And, there's just so much going on there. And when it's balanced, I feel like it just is like a little dance party going on. And I will say, I think the
Who doesn't love a
Lillet
little
Rouge,
dance party, right?
Who doesn't
Come
love
on.
a dance party? I think the Lillet Rouge really helps to round out the rum flavors where the Blanc stands out a little bit more. I think the Rouge flavors blend better. Try it with both. But I will say, I used a Caribbean rum. Before I did this, I did a Jamaican rum. I think both are fantastic. If you have a preference on one over the other, use the one you prefer. But really and truly, a martini, just make sure with any martini, you're using great quality spirits because they will show their true colors. And if they have beautiful flavor and they're blended together in the right, form and right percentage of, ounces, it's beautiful. So just treat your martini with care and like that math equation, you can't get wrong, okay, to get the right answer. So
Nice.
that's my
All
martini
right.
spiel.
It's a good spiel, Jules. Let's get on to other questions. Like, where did this drink come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Let's learn.
Yep.
Hit me with a good history lesson, Brad. The Vesper.
Let me hit you with the history. Now, I need to ask Jules before we get started. Do you know how the Vesper came to be? Do you know?
Well, okay. So I feel like with a lot of cocktails, my first guess is always Harry's Bar in France, right? That's a good, if you don't know, maybe guess there. But then again, I'm thinking, okay, well, the Vesper was made popular by James Bond because he ordered a Vesper Martini that was shaken and not stirred. And that movie came out in what, the 60s or so?
Yeah.
So if it came out in the 60s, Hollywood, maybe the Vesper was created in London or New York?
Okay. Now I'm going to put you on the spot one more time.
Oh, boy. Great. Yep.
Can you recall the line that James Bond uses when he orders his martinis?
Well, I mean, the only one I know. So if it isn't this, then short answer is no. But martini, shaken, not stirred.
Right. Yep.
Thank God.
Well,
I failed the White Russian episode. Let's be real.
Hey,
Thank God I at least got this.
What? My nose is in the books, not yours. Yours is out there making things happen, right?
I'm out here drinking.
Yeah. I'm just back in the research library here, digging around. All right.
How'd I do on the origin, though? Am I close?
No, you're not. But
I'll keep drinking then.
Yeah, just sip and relax. Come on. Get yourself a nice cocktail there. So, does the name Ian Fleming mean anything to you?
Sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, now, for those of you who don't know who Ian Fleming is, and for those of you who do, you're like, oh, I get it. So, for those of you that don't, let me tell you about Ian Fleming. So, he was a British writer who actually wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Do you know that?
No.
Oh, you pretty chitty chitty, chitty chitty bang bang, we love you. Dude,
was that like
I don't know.
4?
Like 60s, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
okay.
70s.
Anyway, big deal. Because that was a big deal movie. That was very popular.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang loves you too. Yes, you're right. So he wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But that's not what he's famous for, Jules. Ian was a commander in the British Naval Intelligence.
Okay. So maybe I am close when I said London.
So during World War II,
he
was involved in planning the operation called GoldenEye, among others.
Okay.
Name GoldenEye ring a bell?
No, I did just watch Masters of the Air, so I'm trying to see if there isn't anything
Well, perhaps we'll continue then. So, GoldenEye is the namesake of his Jamaican hideaway, and maybe some other things too. So, GoldenEye was an operation that was set into motion in World War II because Spain was cozying up to the Axis powers; those were the bad guys, and England had a surveillance station located in Gibraltar, which is Rock of Gibraltar, Mediterranean Sea, passage to the Atlantic Ocean, and they were, that's where they would kind of monitor traffic, right? That went over to the Atlantic, namely U-boats and other things like that. So Operation GoldenEye was to first observe and kind of listen to see if they were actually going to buddy up, and the second thing was if they did, and Germans did arrive, then they were going to engage in various acts of sabotage to make life difficult.
Okay.
Okay. So this leads me to what Ian Fleming is actually best known for, and that is writing a popular series of spy novels, Jules, featuring one agent 007.
Ooh,
Bond.
cool.
James Bond. Yes. And these novels became movies, Jules.
Yeah. The name is Bond.
James
Bond. Yeah.
So the Vesper not only was made popular by Bond, it's actually owned by Bond, or in this case, Ian Fleming, because James Bond isn't a real person.
Yeah.
Ian Fleming is.
And he wrote that in the book?
However unlikely, the inventor is, in fact, Ian Fleming, the writer and creator
No.
of James Bond. He created the Vesper Martini, and he's said to have taken inspiration from bartender Gilberto Preti, who was the man behind the stick at Duke's Bar in London.
Okay,
case you were
Brad,
wondering.
P.S.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
I
But you
said
said Harry's
London.
in Paris first, but London's a good second.
And then I said
Yeah.
London or New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Now,
okay.
yeah,
just
so
want
for those of you
people
who are
to
like,
know.
is Duke's Bar still around? It absolutely is. Duke's is still around. It's actually located just kind of to the west side of St. James Square. I've walked by it 100 times, never went in like a jackass. And that is between the streets of Pall Mall, which were my dad's favorite cigarettes, and Piccadilly, and just off of St. James Place, which I believe is a property also on Monopoly. So if you're ever in London and you want to take the tube, just go to the Green Park station, and it's about a half block's walk.
Yeah, we'll put it on our list, Brad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Now, martinis at the time, and we're talking 1950s here, were quite popular. So Preti seemed to have mastered and perfected the elegance of the martini, and he was known for serving up 5-sip martinis. Now, I looked up the recipe,
That's
Jules,
funny.
for 5-sip martinis.
Yeah.
I can't find a single
Okay.
reference to a 5-sip martini other than people who write about this story. You know, there is a 1-sip martini and there is a 5-to-1 martini, but there is no 5-sip martini that I can find. So if somebody else finds it, let me know. Send us the recipe. I must try. Now, the cocktail made its debut, created by Mr. Fleming, and that was in Fleming's first book, Casino Royale, which was written in and published in 1953.
Okay.
Now, Casino Royale, if you haven't seen the movie, which actually came out in 2016, if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, it's about young James Bond or early James Bond, and he was newly minted with 00 status and a license to kill, and he sets out on his first mission, and he must defeat this private banker in a high-stakes poker game at Casino Royale in Montenegro. In the book, and in the 2016 movie, but let's go back to the book in 1953, he is at the poker table, and a waiter walks up, asks him what he'd like to drink, and he says, "Dry martini." And I'm actually thinking he probably talked like Sean Connery, because that's my favorite Bond.
Sean Connery.
Dry martini.
Yes.
3 measures of Gordon's, 1 of vodka, half measure of quina lele. Shake it very well until it's cold. Then add a thin slice of lemon peel. Now, I don't know if that was truly.
So he wrote that in the book.
He wrote that in the book. Yep. First time anybody had ever seen the recipe for a Vesper.
Wow.
Now, if you were to drink it with 3 measures of Gordon, 1 of vodka, and a half of quina lele, which in this case is Coca Americano, it's kind of tough. I mean, that's a big bowl of booze, right?
No, that's why when you said yours was 1-1-1, I was like, wow, I've been seeing a lot of, 3-1 half, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. Nobody makes it like that and can serve it and say, "Oh, this tastes delicious." It's
Right.
just tough.
I couldn't imagine it being really palatable.
And look, sorry, folks, Gordon's gin. I'm sorry. We called this out in a previous episode, like good, cheap, alternatives to expensive
but
bottles.
3 ounces of it.
Right. I mean, like, you want to make sure it's very cold, so he wasn't wrong, right?
Right.
I just think that's a tough swallow once it gets warm, and
Right.
most of the time gin kind of can be when it gets warm. So let's be honest.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the interesting thing: when he orders that martini, he didn't call it a Vesper. It wasn't until later in the book that he meets the beautiful Vesper Lind that he decides her name is the perfect name for the drink, because both drinks are elegant and beautiful. So who is Vesper Lind, you're about to say? And Vesper is a former, now this is also a fictional character in the book,
Of course.
but she is a former MI6 agent and a liaison officer for Her Majesty's Treasury Finance Action Task Force. And she is quick-witted, and she is beautiful, she is fashionable, and she is
has to
driven
be.
to succeed. She has it all.
Yeah.
She is also Bond's first romantic interest, and the only woman in the series, other than his future wife, that he ever proposed to.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. So real lover. Not one of
Yes.
those,
Secret lover. So so we talked about Fleming's inspiration for the drink. Let's talk about Fleming's inspiration for Vesper Lind. They say that Fleming's days in the British intelligence, he worked with an agent by the name of Vesperale. And she was one of the most successful British secret agents in history. And she was a favorite of Winston Churchill. Now, her real name was Christina. Well, it's Christina, but she's from Poland. Christina. Maybe Christina. Christina. Yeah.
Yeah.
And her last name is Skarbek. And she was of Polish nobility. Her father was a count, and her mother was actually a Jewish heiress, which is interesting that, like, for that time, they typically wouldn't marry, right? But they did, and she must have been beautiful. And she was told, or it's told that Christina, or Vesperale, let's call her, let's just call her Vesper, make it easy. She was an unmanageable tomboy growing up and had been expelled from a Swiss finishing school for her robust behavior. So she was an avid skier, obviously going to a Swiss finishing school.
Yep.
She probably skied a lot. And strikingly beautiful. So she was the kind of person, Jules, that always seemed to have options in front of her and could make really the best out of any situation. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, when the Germans occupied Poland, she fled to England, where she convinced the British military that she would be an excellent spy with zero military training.
Sure. Yeah.
And here's the thing, she was an excellent spy, right? So there are many stories about her bravery, and one that actually stands out, which I thought was super interesting, is she was trying to needed to cross a German checkpoint. And when she approached the checkpoint, the guards detained her, and she put her arms in the air, and when she raised her arms, she exposed 2 grenades that didn't have the pins in them. Now, if I don't know if you know anything about grenades, but there's a pin in a grenade.
Yeah.
You pull the pin out, it activates the timer in the grenade, and I think you got about 10 seconds before it blows up.
Or so.
Sometimes
yeah,
they have
give or
handles,
take.
and you pull the pin, and then it's got a handle, and when you let go of the handle, now it activates. Anyways, so she exposes these grenades. The officers take off running because they don't want to blow up.
Right.
She grabs the grenades, stops the arming procedure. I don't know if she stuck a pin in him or did something, and she takes off running and escapes into the woods.
Yeah.
And completed her mission. So
you're telling me she's clever.
She's clever.
Nice.
So Fleming apparently knew her, as I mentioned, and worked with her, and they reportedly had an affair after the war. She was quite beautiful. She was very intelligent and sophisticated, and perhaps even a little bitterness there for Fleming, right? Because the relationship ended. And so maybe, just maybe, we've got Polish vodka involved here and a little English gin and a little bitter Quina Lillet. That could be truly the inspiration for the cocktail, the Vesper. So
How
maybe it's an
funny.
homage to Vesper. Yeah.
But it really was because of Bond.
Yeah, 100%. Now, let me tell you something. You said earlier, I asked you, hey, name a line where Bond orders a martini. And
Tell me
like,
he doesn't actually say it.
He actually doesn't ever really order a Vesper Martini in any of the movies.
Huh.
It wasn't until 2016 that he ordered or came, he divulged the Vesper, right?
Huh.
Everything before that, right? You think, well, Bond was a vodka martini drinker, I thought. And that's what I thought growing up. And the reason is because A, he never did this. B, in the first movie, Bond movie, it was Fleming's second book, Dr. No. The first Bond movie, Smirnoff was a big supporter of the movie, financial supporter, and they did not want gin to be mentioned in the martini. So forever, and in that movie, he orders a semi-dry vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. And forevermore, every time he ordered a drink, sometimes it was semi-dry vodka martini, sometimes it was a vodka martini, sometimes it was just a martini, always shaken.
And it wasn't until
stirred.
2016 in the movie that he orders a Vesper?
Correct. Or
Wow.
1953 in the book.
In the book.
Where he actually orders the drink that we're drinking now, the Vesper.
Interesting. Yeah, I always thought that the Vesper was like some classy James Bond martini.
Yeah. Well, people, I think after 2016, it started to work its way into Bond knowledge. Like, oh, that's what, because I didn't read any of the books, you know.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of people didn't, but those who did, who they know. But those who didn't, they're like, oh yeah, you know what? It was always a vodka martini. What the heck? Where's this Vesper coming from? No, you know.
Mandela effect. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, can I tell you one more fun fact about? There's many fun facts about Bond.
Hit me with a couple.
Okay. I'm going to give you two because in the interest of time. All right.
Yeah.
1961, President John F. Kennedy said in an interview that Ian Fleming's novel, From Russia with Love, was his favorite book. This is the first book that Fleming ever wrote. Was it? No, it wasn't the first book that Fleming ever wrote. It was the second book. So that skyrocketed sales for the book. And then from there, a movie quickly followed, and that was the second Bond movie, From Russia with Love. This was also the last movie that John F. Kennedy ever saw.
Whoa. That is a fun fact.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, why 007? This is the other fun fact, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
If you're asking me, I have no idea.
Yep. No, I don't know how you would. Why 007? It's a reference to Fleming's favorite spy that he studied. And this was 16th century John Dee, who would sign his letters to Queen Elizabeth I with a 007 glyph to signify that they were for her eyes only.
Wow.
For your eyes only. Did you ever see that one?
No.
That was actually one of my favorite Bond movies. But I think I was coming to the age where I could appreciate what those movies were, and it was like on cable TV when I was a kid, and I was like, oh my God, I love James Bond. So,
yeah, I was never a Bond fan. I was more the Jason Bourne, I'm going to be honest.
Hey man, I don't blame you, but if it wasn't for Bond, a lot of
there
these
would have been
movies,
no Bourne.
he was the first. He was the first non-superhero who had the ability to save the world. In stories.
I think what bothered me then, and I appreciate now, is that there were so many Bonds. Like you'd kind of you have your favorite Bond actor, right, and then it would change. I always hated that. I wish it would stay the same, but now I've come to appreciate it. Like you have the eras, right? We talked about the eras of cocktails on one of the podcasts. You have your eras of Bonds. And I would love, maybe I'll put a compilation together to promote this podcast of a compilation of all the Bonds ordering their martinis and their delivery.
That's a heck of an idea. I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
That sounds fun. But no, I really thought that this came from like a bar and it was maybe really expensive or, insider secret recipe that James Bond then ordered. I don't know, but I was not expecting this cocktail to literally have been based on a character in a book. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. That might be our weirdest, origin story yet.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I thought it was kind of boring when I started. I'm like, oh, this isn't very exciting. And then I was like, wait a minute, it kind of is. Once you start to like understand, Vesper was like, well, this is where he was in love, right? He was hurt. So, and apparently Vesper was quite beautiful, but we've said that already.
Yeah. Well, let's just watch the Bond movies, right?
Just watch them out. Those have beautiful Bond girls. All right.